Janet Bogwa and the panel. And Janet, one of the things I was talking about with some of the researchers at Ipsos is that when people say they polled many who said 64% are aware of men who may be unfaithful, and 54% women. Some were saying, or analysts were saying, that it could be the other way around, or even it could be higher in women because most women are mostly secretive. I'd like to see what the panelists have to say about that.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So are people hiding behind those numbers? Are we seeing perhaps that there's... You mentioned that, Oyunga. You talked about the fact that women...
Things tend to be very deceptive. You know, you've looked at you look at our patterns across different things, you know, and we tend to be very deceptive. We won't always be straight up. We like to say what should be politically correct. So, reality, and unfortunately, I'm a man who deals with the field. I deal with these stats on a real level, and my sense is that it's a lot higher. Unfaithfulness has rather become a sport, and people are getting very good at it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm.
Do you agree with that as well?
Well, I agree that unfaithfulness has become higher, but rather than just accept that that is what we now have to live with, I think we need to go a little deeper and ask why. Mm-hmm. Why is it this way? And I can think of several things. I'll give you a perfect example where in our city, when a guy is about to get married, the night before, he has this thing they call a stag night, where he basically has his choice of ladies to choose from. So you really have told this guy that it is okay to go this way. So I think that something has gone so bad somewhere, and we shouldn't accept that now that this is what we have, then we ought to accept it and say, okay, this is who we are, let's deal with it and move on. I think somebody needs to go to the why and deal with it with the hope of providing a solution. Because I believe, I'm very encouraged by this, and I think the statistics may not be accurate, but I actually think from where I stand and I come from a faith-based, I'm a pastor. I deal with people in church. Yes, there are unhappy people who consider themselves unhappy in marriage, but I also know a lot more people who are very, very happy, because I was asking this gentleman, what is happiness? How is there an objective happiness? Is there something that you can say, this if you put this and this together, then you have happiness? If it is subjective, I don't know that you can dispute this. We need to say, we need to redefine what is happiness, and on the basis of that, then we can delve into this. So I think this is a very general report.
Yeah.
It's good. I love it because it makes me
it makes you hopeful that perhaps there's... Let's move along, and I want to quickly touch on the happiness index. I also thought that was interesting, that 7 out of 10 men are happy in their marriage, but only 6 out of 10 women are. So we're seeing a lot more women who are unhappy in their marriages.
I think that is a phenomenon that happens a lot of time, because I would say, first of all, women have great expectations of their marriage. They seek more satisfaction of their marriage. This, of course, is a generalization than men do. And so it is typical to find that among couples, when you do a polling of the husband and a polling of the wife, you'd find that the husband thinks things are okay, while the wife thinks the marriage is almost collapsing. That has tended to be a pattern that has appeared in several places. I think also it could be because women have high expectations of their marriage, because happiness, at least from a subjective perspective, is based on your expectation of where you should be and where you are. Is there a very big difference between the two? I think it is a source of concern, any gender difference in marriage, because marriage has to do with one man and one woman. There should be parity, and ideally that parity should tend towards 10. The scale of 0 to 10, it should tend towards 10. But you know, because we are human beings, we have defects. You'll never find a perfect partner. You'll be discouraged. Maybe some of the people who are polled had a quarrel the night before. So
all those could actually affect.
Yes, all those could affect.
Can I interject? I would also say that maybe the difference between men and women is perspective. if it's like two blind men trying to describe an elephant. One will say it is a what? It has a short tail. Another, I mean, I think it's really perspective.
And it also comes down to communication, which you were saying. And you were saying we've been trying to do that for what? The past
since the apple, I guess. That's what
since the apple.
Yeah, so
communication is a major issue.
It's a problem.
We're winding up, and I want to throw this to you. Let me throw this to you, Oyunga. Would you get married?
Yes.
Why aren't you married?
Still looking, and praying hard every day. And I'm still hopeful.
Are you discouraged by the kind of women that you're seeing in society today? Perhaps the lack of submission to a large extent. And again, this is just from the debates and the arguments and the discussions that go on out there. You get a sense that women are not sort of owning up to the traditional role that was there before, aren't as submissive, and perhaps are approaching marriage from a very selfish perspective. Could those be some of the reasons that are holding you back? At this point, I'm probably just trying to find you someone out there.
Well, there are valid reasons. I mean, we grew up with certain expectations, especially as men. We grew up from very patriarchal societies and where women are supposed to take on certain roles. The reality of it, though, and this is the fortune of education, is that as men we have changed and natural women have changed, so the expectations of marriage have changed. So it'd be a bit ridiculous to be stuck in that mold. And I think ultimately it boils down to, that's what the two panelists have been saying, that it's a make or break deal. You go into this arrangement and make it work, because the reality of life is there will always be problems. There's no idealism. So I would hate to use this as excuses. I'm not married not because of any fundamental issues. It's just a question of life choices. You're right.
Right person at the right time.
When the time is right.
When the time is right. Yeah. Your final thoughts on this?
I would say maybe comment on someone who talked about getting married for the wrong reasons to the wrong person. I agree that we can get married to the wrong person. But I think once you are married, then you become the right one and you work at it. What we are not told is that a good marriage is a product of a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of selflessness. And if you go into it asking, what is in it for me? I can guarantee you a very high level of dissatisfaction. The other thing I would say, last one here, when you buy a gadget and can you imagine, for example, buying a nice car like a Mac and then taking it to a mechanic in River Road to fix it? He will mess up your car. So I think that we need to get back to faith in someone that is higher. And for me, the manufacturer of marriage is God himself. And we need to go back to what does God say about marriage. I can, as a Christian, and in my 16 years, I honestly say I don't know how people who have no personal relationship with God do marriage.
Okay, let's get your final thoughts, Charles.
Janet, first of all, to talk about my final thoughts, I'll say that as a lawyer, we in the country are debating the marriage bill. And I think one of the things we need to keep in mind is that there are objective criteria to determine whether marriage is working or not. One of those is stability, that the marriage really needs to be stable. The parties who are entering the marriage need to feel convinced that the effort they are putting in, the investment will work. One party will not opt out tomorrow after I've invested so much. There needs to be an element of permanence, of exclusivity. You want to invest in somebody who is not investing part of the money or part of that investment elsewhere. These are some of the issues that we are hoping the marriage bill can address. But in terms of the couples, the objective aspects of marriage for them include the idea of character. And I'm very happy that this poll has brought it out. They include the aspect of commitment, that I'm ready to enter into this for the long haul. And they include the aspect of communication. so that when the couples view their marriage as a covenant, it's not just a contract for today or tomorrow, it's not just a wedding, it's a lifelong engagement. Then the ups and downs can be taken in stride because they know I'm going for the long haul.
Okay, I'm going to have to stop you there. We're completely out of time. I want to thank you all so much. This is certainly something that can be discussed at length, even delving into the marriage bill and the aspects of it. But thank you all so much, Charles Kanjama, Pastor Sophie Mbevi, and of course, Oyunga Pala. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.